Good to see y'all. Tuesday night, mindfulness. My name is Rachael Savage. I'm streaming live from Rebel Saints Meditation Society in Seattle, Washington, and with Against the Stream for Against the Stream Meditation Center in Venice, California. And we have Sangha tuning in from all over the place, which is rad. West Coast, East Coast, Central, all over the place. So welcome. Good to see everybody. All right. The topic that I go over, teach on Tuesday nights is mindfulness. And I've been working through a series on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, which is called the Satipatthana. It's the sutta or teaching on mindfulness. It's supposed to be the direct path. It's said to be the direct path to liberation from suffering. So the suffering is all the ways that we make our life worse, basically. So I'll offer a talk, give some instructions for meditation practice. We'll meditate together, and then we'll have some time to discuss the practice together if you like. So 4th foundation of mindfulness, mindfulness of dhammas, which means the truth of the way things are. And tonight I'll be talking about the dhammas, or the truth of the 5, what's called the 5 aggregates of clinging. So let me read you what the Buddha said. Here's the instructions that he gave. It was a question. How does one abide contemplating the dhammas of the 5 aggregates of clinging? What the hell? So tonight I'll talk mainly about what the 5 aggregates are, and it's a contemplation. So I'll invite you as I go through the 5, what they call aggregates or parts, to contemplate. And in particular tonight, contemplate clinging. Contemplate grasping, if you do it. So first is to see the aggregates, what they are, and they're 5 parts of what make up ourselves, me, myself, and I. And then the investigation or contemplation will be to just reflect and see if we cling to them, if we see that in our own experience. And we'll kind of think about it and then practice a meditation to see if you can see the aggregates for yourself and your own experience, and notice, are you clinging or grasping to any or all of those 5? And so to be able to do this, we practice with mindfulness. And mindfulness is defined as present time, investigative, non-judgmental, investigative awareness. So right here, right now, these 5 parts that make up us, and we turn this special quality of investigation and looking and seeing what's there. And as the teaching goes, the Buddha taught that if we cling, if we grasp, we suffer. So what are the 5 aggregates? Contemplating, are we grasping? And then the final question for contemplation is, do we suffer when we grasp or cling? So it makes me think of the story of the Lord of the Rings, the character of Gollum. Some of you guys know this character, one of my favorite characters from the book Lord of the Rings that I read as a kid and again as an adult. And this character of Gollum, he started out as a hobbit. And hobbits are like these sweet creatures, and they love to eat, and they're peaceful, and they like to, stay at home and garden and have parties and make meals for each other and tell each other riddles. And they're not really into any adventure. They like to stay home. And this epic story of Frodo, the Lord of the Rings, is this hobbit that goes on an adventure. And he meets this character down underneath in these caves, Gollum. And Gollum has this ring. He's come across this ring, and he's been holding onto it for some time. And he calls it his precious. His precious. And nothing matters but this ring. He's fixated on the ring. The ring's the most important thing. And the interesting thing we find out later in the story of The Hobbit is that, and the Lord of the Rings, is that Gollum used to be a hobbit. He used to be this sweet creature. And this ring, this clinging, see where I'm going? The clinging and the grasping at this ring, this object, turned him into this obsessive little monster. So what are we clinging to? And are we clinging and grasping in this way? And so in the Tibetan tradition, the explanation of how we relate to ourself and these 5 aggregates, these 5, sometimes they're called, in Noah's book, Heart of the Revolution, he calls them the piles. Sometimes they're called the heaps, these 5 aggregates. It is said in the Tibetan tradition that we cling to them, so self-clinging, self-grasping, and we cherish them as well. And it just reminds me of the relationship of Gollum and the ring. Not only are we clinging, it's our precious. These 5 parts of ourselves we cling and grasp as our precious. So you can just reflect if that's the relationship. So I'll go through the 5. The first one is our body. First one of these aggregates is our body. And the first 3 line right up with, actually they all do, with the foundations of mindfulness. So in the first foundation of mindfulness, we turn toward the body. And here we're looking at the body, our body, and seeing if we cling to it, if we grasp at it, if we cherish it. So what happens if somebody tries to mess with you? If somebody tries to mess with your precious body, Like I had somebody just today, I was just thinking about this. I went on a walk today in the neighborhood, and it just came up for me so strongly. This kid, I don't know, he was a younger dude, like in his 20s or something, early 20s. And I'm walking down the street, and I actually had a bunch of stuff in my arms, and I was going to the post office. And he said, hey, I got a question for you. And I said, oh, I don't have time. I'm on my way to the post office. I'm busy. And he was like, well, fuck you then. I just got so pissed off. I was like, don't talk to me like that. I was just shocked. I was really affronted that he would say that to me. And I just blurted, I got irritated. Like, don't talk to me like that. And then he said to me, don't talk to me like that. I was hot. I was just like, and what I saw was, how dare he talk to me like that? And I still, I'm old school. I still don't think he should have talked to me like that, right? I'm his elder. Like that common respect that I, hope to see on the street, but whatever, fine. I pushed back for sure. But what I noticed as I was walking away is that, in my mind, I was thinking, how dare he talk to me like that? And doesn't he see I'm this woman that could be his mother, and I'm this and I'm that, and I can't believe it. And there was a strong sense of my body. I'm threatened. And this is who I am. I'm this, 50-year-old woman that just got talked to, in this way by this young man, and just really came up for me. Me. Grasping and just really identifying. So one of the ways that the Buddha talked about that we cling, that the effects of the clinging is that we identify and we become very attached. That this body is me. And of course, if it feels threatened, and we should take care of ourselves, right? Of course. But just reflecting for a moment about our body. How much do we cling to our body? How much do we grasp? And do we cherish it in a way that makes us suffer? So the second aggregate to contemplate, abide contemplating, is the senses. So this is also connected to our body, 5 senses, the sense doors, what we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we smell, our physical, what we feel with our skin, our tactile sensations. And do we cling? Do we grasp? Do we get attached to what we experience with our senses? What is it? What is our relationship to our sense experience? And we also, whatever we're experiencing with our senses, we also look at in the second foundation of mindfulness, the feeling tone. So with our senses, including our mind, the 6th sense in the Buddhist teaching, we have a feeling tone of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Neutral is kind of not pleasant or unpleasant. Sometimes we just don't even notice neutral. So do we see our sense impressions? Do we see them as sense impressions? Oh, I'm just simply smelling something, I'm seeing something, I'm hearing something. And how wrapped up do we get in our senses? What's our relationship with what we experience with our senses? I think it's interesting. I can't remember where I read this. Maybe I heard it in a teaching about this teacher who, as his mindfulness practice, used sound for 5 years or something. I love that too. It's like, I'm going to use this for my object as meditation for a while. 5 years. Get a good good understanding, good reflection on this particular topic. So we can practice with mindfulness in this way, where we can investigate. Normally we're just experiencing all of our senses, and we're often not getting any kind of space or perspective. We're just in it. And when we start to practice mindfulness, and we can do especially this mindfulness practice in formal sitting meditation and out when we're just rolling around, we can see with present time, non-judgmental, investigative awareness, hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, using it as a way to investigate and see, and then see, are we clinging? Are we grasping over what's pleasant? Do we want more, right? Duh. What's unpleasant? Do we want less? And are we creating suffering in our relationship with what we're experiencing with our senses? Last night, Noah brought this up in the talk. It was so great. I thought he's reading from Ajahn Amaro's book, The Breakthrough. He's going to be doing a study, a 3-month study on this book. I highly recommend if you can join. I'm doing it for sure. And he was saying that when we experience with our senses, to just see if it's bitter, if the taste is bitter, it's just simply experiencing it as bitter, without adding all this. It shouldn't be bitter. Why is it bitter? I hate that it's bitter. Why is it always bitter when I taste it? If I wasn't so this or that, then it wouldn't be bitter. What is our relationship? Are we clinging to it? Should never be bitter. And does it make us suffer? Do we suffer when we taste something bitter, or is it just simply bitter? How many bitter sense impressions did you get today? I felt like my day was just kind of bitter. My day. So another object of mindfulness. What's my relationship with my senses, and my grasping and my clinging and my suffering? I think that's the best question that we can ask ourselves. Am I suffering about this? That's the quick path to liberation, I think. Ask myself, am I suffering about this? Whatever it is. See if I can stop myself from suffering about it. All right, the third heap or pile or aggregate is our thoughts and emotions. So third foundation of mindfulness of the mind. And what is the truth of our relationship with our thoughts and emotions? Do we think it's us? Do we grasp? Do we cling to our thoughts, to our feelings, meaning here, our emotions? I'm sad, I'm angry, we attach to our sadness and depression. Some of us really are used to being in that place. In the recovery rooms, they talk about having a pity party. I could be guilty of it too. You know, just like going down the list of, our mind will offer this, right? You want to think about what's bad, what's difficult, what's challenging. Let's sit and think about this for a while. So here, as we turn our attention toward our mind, and the thoughts and emotions that come up, we can practice. And I think this is easier to do in meditation when we're watching our mind, to see the difference between volitional and non-volitional thoughts. And then when we get some practice watching, which many of you guys have, we can start to notice it when we're out of meditation too. And people in recovery that have had to practice a renunciation from addiction really know how to do this, right? The first thought wrong. That's what they say in recovery rooms, like first thought wrong, meaning usually when addicts are getting clean, their first thought is about using. Oh, I broke my shoelace, gotta use. Oh, I got a new job, gotta use. Oh, God, I woke up late, gotta use. Oh, everything. That's like, we're so used to that mental habit. That's the first thought often for people that have addictions. It just comes seemingly out of nowhere, even when everything in us is saying, no, I don't want to use, I don't want to drink, I don't want to eat the sugar, I don't want to smoke the cigarette, I don't want to call the person, whatever it is, where I don't want to pick up my phone and get on social media, whatever cravings coming up that we want to indulge in, we can see that that thought is like non-volitional. It just comes seemingly out of nowhere. It's not us thinking it. It just comes. Now, that's the non-volitional thoughts. They just come, all these great ideas come. And then with some mindfulness, we can start to decide if that's a good idea or not, if it's a helpful, skillful idea or not. And then we can decide whether we're going to volitionally continue to think about it, or ponder it, contemplate it, come up with a plan. So we start to learn to let go of our thoughts so much, to understand that they're not us, even though that's normally, it takes some time, because we normally think, oh, my mind is me thinking, this is me. But the kind of advice that our mind gives us is often not great and isn't really us. And it's a great revelation for a lot of us when we start to see, oh, I don't have to believe everything my mind tells me. I don't have to do everything my mind tells me. I'm actually don't have to cling and identify so much with my mind. It's just kind of a lot of times just thinking all on its own. Such a great relief when we see that. So do we cling to our thoughts and emotions? And do we suffer? Oof. Our thoughts and emotions are very painful. And do we suffer about it? And the good ones, are we clinging? And keep these beautiful thoughts and emotions. So just reflecting for yourself. The fourth one is our perception. So our perception is one of these parts that the Buddha is saying that we identify with and cling to as ourself, as our ultimate self, what we are. And perception, we're seeing something and we're deciding the way it is. And there's a couple of misconceptions or misperceptions, I guess, I don't know if that's a word, but the way we mistakenly perceive that the Buddha taught causes us to suffer. So we can see if we do and if we grasp and cling to it. And one is that we perceive reality as being permanent or more permanent than it is. We see things as more solid and more stable and lasting longer than they do. I mean, we know things are impermanent, right? Intellectually. But the question is, do we relate to ourselves and the world as everything is impermanent? Truly. Or do we, when we have something we want, we cling and grasp? I'm keeping this. I want this to stay. Definitely guilty of that. Important to identify, what are we clinging to? And how are we, what does it look like? What does it feel like when I'm clinging? Grasp it, hold it. And if we really did understand this liberating insight that everything is impermanent, we could really see it. How would our life be different? What would our relationship to ourselves and to life be? So, of course, as we meditate, we'll be able to know more and more. Oh, yeah, impermanence. Oh, yeah, impermanence. Oh, yeah, impermanence. I have to say, I'm still amazed, even after years and years of practice, how I still find myself not seeing things as impermanent, having to be reminded, oh yeah, impermanence, oh yeah. The grasping and the clinging, at least in my experience, is deep. And this is what the Buddha talked about, is how we walk around in a sleep-like state of ignorance. And this is what I think he's pointing to. We keep falling asleep with our perception, thinking things are more permanent than they are. We keep relating to things as if they're not impermanent. We just fall asleep and then we wake up again. And that's why I just love reading Dharma books and going to Dharma talks and talking to people about the teachings. So I just wake up more and more. Oh yeah. Oh right, impermanence. I fucking forgot. I can let go. The other perception that we have that causes us to suffer, grasp, and cling is that we relate, or we mistakenly perceive that we are independent, when in reality, we are interdependent. We're not independent. We are so interdependent on this web of life to sustain us that if, we didn't have other people and, that to teach us stuff and to help us get what we need. I mean, even if we're like out in the woods doing some survival thing by ourselves, we're still going to be relying on, what we've learned in the past and other people, other beings to help. So Thich Nhat Hanh really always brings this back and illustrates this he calls it interbeing. This reflection on how we're actually interdependent. We aren't this individual that just is going to do everything ourselves. And our whole, body, mind trip is like dependent on these different parts. And this unfolding process, interdependent on the parts of our body and interdependent on the external reality around us. So just checking and reflecting. What does that mean? And reflecting on the truth of interdependence. How does that make me not suffer? So a lot of just questions tonight for you, for us to abide, contemplating. So the last aggregate or piece of our, what makes up our self in this category is consciousness. And this is like the thing, I guess, that perceives it all. And so our consciousness is what perceives all of this phenomena. Our body, our senses, our thoughts, our emotions, our perceptions. It's all held or seen with consciousness. And the question, as with the rest of them, is, do we grasp? Do we cling? And does that make us suffer? And I think that most of us, if we've been practicing, some of us, if we've been practicing for a while, that's probably the last thing that we will be, holding on to. We might realize, like, okay, I'm not my body. Okay, fine. I'm not my feeling, my senses. Those are just connected to my body. Okay, I'm not my mind. I'm not my feelings. I'm not even my perceptions, my views, my memories, but I'm my consciousness. You're not taking that away from me. Like, that's the ultimate, my precious. You can take my body, but you can't take my consciousness. I think it's a good way to see if I'm clinging, if I think about somebody taking it from me, threatening it in some way. This reminds me of this friend in our Sangha. He was feeling like, I think he was having some stuff happening online where he was getting attacked and was bringing up a lot of childhood stuff for him. And so another friend in the Sangha was like, all right. If your feelings are getting hurt, people are talking shit about you, we're going to do the dozens. And I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's like this insult contest where you just start insulting each other, right? Just kind of feeling it. And that's kind of like what happened to me on the street today, right? I got insulted. I was like, what the hell? I saw the grasping. I saw the clinging. I saw the cherishing of myself. And I saw the suffering. All right. So let's try in our meditation to see if we can see these aggregates. Let's try to do what the Buddha said. Abide, contemplating the truth of these 5 parts of our experience with mindfulness. So we'll do that together. Go ahead and find your meditation posture. Should be groovy. Go ahead and sit either on your cushion or a chair or your couch. And gently close your eyes. And right away, Bringing your awareness into your body, feeling your body sitting. And as you sit, settling into your meditation posture, eyes gently closed, sitting with an upright spine. Soften your jaw, relax your shoulders, soften your belly. And letting go of any tension that you can release. And as you sit, bring mindfulness, a present time awareness to your breathing. Spending a few minutes here, gathering your attention, your focus. As you breathe in, know that you're breathing in. As you breathe out, know that you're breathing out. Here in this first reflection of the first aggregate, the body, present time awareness of your body sitting, that you have a body. And as you hold your attention here on your body with present time awareness, you can also reflect and contemplate. Do you cling to this body? What's that experience like of clinging and grasping at your body? And contemplating, if we see this grasping, does it cause us suffering? Stress, anxiety? Now turning our attention to the second aggregate of clinging, the Buddha taught is our sense impressions. It's opening our awareness to the sense doors, seeing, hearing, smelling, and tasting. Physical sensations in the body. Noticing what we see as pleasant, experience as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. feels good, what feels irritating. Do we cling or grasp to what's pleasant? What's unpleasant? And do we suffer about our senses when it's bitter? Now, including the sixth sense, our thoughts and emotions, this third aggregate, opening up to seeing our thoughts, the process of our mind, thoughts coming and going, emotions begin in the mind and felt in the body. Inviting here, contemplating thoughts and emotions. Noticing which thoughts are non-volitional, they just come. and which thoughts we choose to think about. And investigating, do we cling? Do we grasp at our thoughts and emotions? And do we suffer about them? Seeing if we can identify with mindfulness our perception. This fourth aggregate, how we perceive. Are we perceiving our experience, our body, our world as permanent, not changing? How often are we asleep to impermanence, asleep to seeing the truth? Are we holding on to anything in our life as permanent? And is it making us suffer? And finally, contemplating the last final aggregate or part, consciousness, our consciousness, part of our mind, whatever it is that knows, that sees, our mind, our body, our perception. Do we cling to our consciousness? And finally, the Buddha taught that these 5 aggregates of clinging, that it's the clinging that causes us to suffer. So for the last few minutes of our meditation tonight, just reflecting on what would it be like if we could let go, even just a little bit. What would our life and our experience be like if we didn't hold so tightly to our body, to our mind, to our experience, to our perception?